So there you have it, heading into the final European round of the season, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel are separated by 17 points after a not really thrilling Belgian Grand Prix by Belgian Grand Prix standards. But let's have a look, see what happened in it and discuss any talking points from the weekend itself. Oh, before we do start, if you're new to the channel, chances are you probably are, this is only the second video on it, please do like the video and subscribe. Comment down below on any of the issues discussed in this video. I am welcome to a bit of debate and also just to share your opinion. Share it on Twitter, do whatever you have to do. That's all the plugging done. Let's get into the video. Qualifying saw a dry session transform miraculously into a wet session. All our prayers were answered for a bit of excitement, although we didn't get to see cars flying around Spa-Francorchamps on full beans in the dry, which is quite a nice sight. Although we did see a new lap record. The unofficial track record, the ultimate track record set by the Porsche 919 Evo set in May was beaten. Was it May or was it April? Sometime earlier this year, was broken by Kimi Räikkönen in qualifying 2, and then Sebastian Vettel on top of that by 0.03 of a second. It's lowered now by a few tenths from the Porsche's record, which is great because Formula 1 is back at the top. Sorry WEC fans, I apologise, but it was technically cheating. When the rain shower did appear, and it appeared slightly earlier than expected, all cars were out on slick tyres, the super softs. However, Bottas' spin at Blanchimont rendered the conditions absolutely useless for everyone apart from the Force Indias, who decided to gamble and try a lap on slick tyres. Almost ended up killing Perez, mission aborted. When the final times were set, the track did improve dramatically, and that caught quite a few people out. The two Red Bulls didn't fuel properly, Ferrari didn't fuel Raikkonen's car properly, surprise surprise, and that meant that they did not get to set their proper lap times and show their full speed in the wet. Lewis Hamilton did though. He initially lowered the benchmark by 3 seconds before Vettel got within 7 tenths. Esteban Ocon for the new Racing Point Force India team, which we'll discuss later, did very well. He lost 3 seconds in the middle sector because he was fastest of all in the first sector, but threw it away and managed to qualify still a very credible third ahead of Perez and Romain Grosjean. Raikkonen fell to 6th, the two Red Bulls were 7th and 8th, Magnussen was 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was Bottas, who decided that he needed to change his underwear and couldn't set a time. On to the race proper now, and most of the action actually happened inside the first 280 odd metres. Nico Hülkenberg got his braking point all wrong for La Source, barreled into the back of Fernando Alonso, who went sideways into and over the top of Charles Leclerc's Sauber, also hitting Daniel Ricciardo. There was a bit of a chain reaction as well. Ricciardo was there in the actual first accident. I think Raikkonen got hit by Ricciardo, who sort of almost launched over the back of Raikkonen himself and actually stuck the Finn's DRS actuator open, and they had to close that rather forcefully in the pit stop. He got a puncture which he came in to repair. Ricciardo lost 2 laps whilst Red Bull changed his rear wing. They both retired in the end, but there were 3 certain retirements from the start. Hülkenberg, who's got quite a hefty penalty, a 3-point penalty on his super license, which takes him to 4 over the past 12 months, and a 10-place grid drop from Monza, something that the Renault engine could really do without. A bit further on, past Eau Rouge and Raidillon, Vettel got past Hamilton into Le Combe using the Ferrari's impressive straight line speed, which we will also talk about later. That was just before the safety car came out, a crucial part in the race. We went 4 wide for the lead into Le Combe with Hamilton, Vettel and the 2 Force Indias of Perez and Ocon, who started very brightly before the action was completely cut until lap 4. Hamilton tried his luck again at the restart into the bus stop, but locked up, lost time, and he could never really recover it. Vettel started to streak away until the pit stops. Hamilton came in first on lap 22, put on soft tyres and rejoined somewhere in the 6th to 7th region, I believe, and then 1 lap later, because Ferrari fearing the undercut, the power of it, then they brought Vettel in and he came in softs, rejoined in the lead. The gap closed but not by much, and then Vettel just pulled out the gap, extended his legs 2011 style, and then finished easily first. The action came from Verstappen and Bottas. Verstappen coming all the way up the field to finish 3rd in his effective home race. He was very happy with that because I believe the best result he'd achieved in Spa was 11th, unless he finished in he finished 8th, sorry, in his first ever Belgian Grand Prix, but hadn't really done much more in Spa. There was the blocking incident with Raikkonen in 2016, engine failure in 2017, but he finally managed to impress the thousands of Dutch fans that littered the Spa-Francorchamps surroundings and filled the track with orange smoke. Not Renault smoke though, that's very important. And Bottas, who is a fair shout for driver of the day, coming from 17th to finish 4th, which is the maximum Mercedes thought they could achieve from him. So to the finishing order, Vettel finished first, collecting the 25 points, ahead of Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Ocon, Grosjean and Magnussen in 7th and 8th, Gasly in 9th, and rounding up the top 10 was Marcus Ericsson. Sauber had good pace here at Spa. They couldn't show it through Leclerc, but Ericsson managed to get the job done anyway, and that keeps them ahead of Force India for the time being. The new Force India, that is, not the old one. So let's talk a little bit more about the starting incident and some of the talking points from the weekend. We've already discussed the cause of the accident, which is Nico Hülkenberg suffering from a bit of brain fade. But we'll talk about the halo, because it was something that was very controversial coming into 2018. Didn't like the aesthetics of it. Didn't really believe that, well, everyone knew it was a step forward in safety, but what about visibility and everything, particularly going up through Eau Rouge and Radion, a corner, or corners with very steep elevation changes. It's going to be interesting to see how that works at turn 1 at the Circuit of the Americas as well. But it's proved its worth already in Formula 2 this year. Remember back to Spain, an incident between Tadasuke Makino and Nairo Fukuzumi. And there was some damning evidence as well to show just how well the halo is built, and that it is really necessary for modern day Grand Prix cars in order to keep safety paramount importance. And the evidence was just as damning on Leclerc's car as well. If you can see Alonso's tyre marks, where if you look at the frame by frame analysis, which I'll probably put on screen right now, you can see that Alonso's car clearly jolts upward as the front right wheel of the car, if I can spit my words out, hits the halo and jolts the car upwards. So it's better to hit the halo rather than somebody's neck or head, as Leclerc found out. He didn't really know who to blame. He thought Alonso just got it all wrong. Thankfully it's all cleared up now. Everyone's alive. Hülkenberg's been punished. We're done. And putting a close-up photo here, there you can see the tyre marks as well. The carbon exterior is slightly cracked, but most importantly, that internal structure, that 1 stone, 1 pound structure, stayed properly intact. And for anyone who doubted the halo before this race, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with it now, or do you still want to see something different, or nothing at all, which would be a little silly? The other big thing about lap 1, Hamilton getting passed by Vettel with consummate ease going down the Kemmel Straight and into Les Combes. Shell have got fuel which is only available to the Works Ferrari team with a very special additive, a molecule that is so rare that it's only allowed for this one team, and they believe it does produce some extra performance. Now how this happens, we're not particularly sure. Maybe it converts some bonds in, use less energy to create other bonds, which then increases performance. I don't know, I'm not a fuel technician or a specialist. I'm not quite sure how it works. They haven't disclosed any information, but all we know is it is clearly making a difference. Mercedes do worry about the impact of Ferrari's straight line speed. Toto Wolff before the race wished that Hamilton wouldn't get in a position like he was last year, where Vettel got a good slipstream going into Eau Rouge, and Hamilton had to lift slightly just to make sure that Vettel couldn't take full speed into Eau Rouge and get the slipstream, and that allowed him to stay ahead. There was no repeat of it this year. The Ferrari is simply too quick, and that might bode into their favour for Monza, a race that they haven't won since 2010 or 11, I believe. Either way, Alonso was the last Ferrari driver to win there, and they will be wanting to put that right this year. And they have to, because Vettel, if he wins in Italy, even with Hamilton second, and then goes to Singapore, a track he really likes apart from last year, then there could be a chance that going into Japan, the gap stands at just 3 points, something that seemed almost unthinkable coming out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. I mentioned him before, Valtteri Bottas, terrific drive, made a really good pass on Pierre Gasly. Gasly getting a taste of his own medicine. Remember him passing, who was it? Was it Ollie Rowland into Eau Rouge in 2016 in GP2. This time Bottas got past Gasly with a sweeping move around the outside of Eau Rouge to take 9th place, I think it was at the time, 9th or 10th place at the time. Gasly made a very good start as well. His getting past Raikkonen and Ricciardo at the start really did help him, because it meant that he wasn't caught up in all the accident in the beginning. He was hit, I think, slightly by Raikkonen, unless I've imagined that. But anyway, a very crucial start, and that helped him secure 9th place and 2 very good points for Toro Rosso. But back to the flying Finn, the only Finn that was flying yesterday. Mercedes thought that 4th was the maximum, even if Raikkonen had continued, as it was, because Bottas did get a 5-second penalty for hitting Sirotkin, I believe, or Williams at the start, which didn't really cause the whole thing between Hülkenberg and Alonso. Well, we don't believe so anyway. It was still a misdemeanor that he was punished for. It didn't cost him any time. He still had a comfortable buffer to Sergio Perez, I think by 5 or so seconds even on top of that, just emphasising the real performance of the works Mercedes. But he drove very well, and Verstappen simply was better. So that pit stop for the front wing change, I think on lap 2, Bottas came in for a tyre and wing change, along with the performance of Verstappen and the reliability of Red Bull, meant that a podium was completely off the cards. He finished about 30 seconds away from the Dutchman. So there we go. That was the maximum for Mercedes. They did expect that. It probably would have wanted a podium if that front wing change hadn't have happened, but we'll never know if he would have caught and passed them. Moving on to Red Bull, they did end up with a podium which was a lot more than they were expecting after qualifying. They came with a Monza spec rear wing to Spa, simply because the Renault engine is lacking about 70 brake horsepower, they believe, and they wanted to make up that straight line speed somehow, so they came with an incredibly skinny rear wing, and it may have actually worked against them in the wet qualifying session. Verstappen and Ricciardo not necessarily having the grip, although Verstappen was provisionally fastest on the first runs. They also didn't fuel the cars correctly, just like Ferrari did with Raikkonen, and they couldn't get out towards the end of the session, eliminating all hopes of Verstappen becoming the youngest pole sitter and Ricciardo also getting another pole in 2018. It would be interesting to see how they do in Monza, whether they carry the same wing or take even more off. Will they even appear with a rear wing? Do they actually need one? Adrian Newey is too good at this game. But Toro Rosso came with a more conservative angle of attack in the rear wing with that Honda engine, and still did well in the speed traps, registering over 200 miles an hour in the race. Gasly wasn't exactly past, it wasn't as easy as maybe passing the McLaren Honda was for Bottas going down the Kemmel Straight when he passed Gasly. So that is something that is quite encouraging for Toro Rosso and Red Bull and Honda. They're making steps forward. Christian Horner believes that Honda are making really good progression, and let's be honest, Red Bull can't really go down any further than they are now. I don't suspect that Renault will be able to provide a big enough challenge to them to take third place next year. Whether Haas can do something, that remains to be seen, but there is a massive gulf in class, around 160 odd points between Renault and Red Bull. Then we move on to, along with the Halo, one of the biggest talking points post-race, Hamilton suggesting that there might be a few tricks on the Ferrari and that helped Vettel pass him so easily. Charlie Whiting, the FIA's race direction, said he was amused by the comments and that the FIA are thoroughly happy with any internal systems that Ferrari are running. If you remember back to Monaco and Canada, they were monitoring the dual battery system that Ferrari have had since 2014 to make sure the battery output is exactly in line with the regulations. And there's no way that Hamilton can know what is going on underneath the car, something that Hamilton did say. He did backtrack, Hamilton, and denied suggesting that he thinks that there's something illegal, saying to Autosport, "We all have trick things on our car. Trick is just a word for something special. I don't know what's on their car, so I couldn't tell you either way. I'm not saying that they're doing anything illegal, it's just that something that brings that extra bit of performance." And then finally we move on to Force India, the week's feel-good story. They're approved entry by the FIA for this week, last weekend now, and the end of the season as Racing Point Force India, taken over of course by a consortium led by Lawrence Stroll. And it does mean that Lance Stroll might be in the car from Singapore. We don't really know their driver lineup past Italy, but it is believed to be Perez and Stroll, with Ocon going, well, seemingly nowhere for the time being. What his future is currently unknown, and it's just so many unknowns in the driver market at the moment, up and down the grid. Just a little thing on Haas as well. Of course, they were rivals, and they haven't really benefited. They sort of have, because some pressure has been taken off them, but they wanted Force India, considering that they are a new entry. They've lost all their points that they earned under the old Sahara Force India brand. They don't get fresh engine allocation, which strikes me as a little bit odd, because if you're going to treat them as a new entry, then give them all the perks that a new entry will get. But Haas wanted them moved to the back of the pit lane, the last garage. However, the FIA waved that away, saying that's stupid. They've already decked out the pit lanes in their special fibres. This guy was saying until Russia, I think, at the latest, there's nothing that can be done there. And also, we're not in a situation like the old days where newer teams or the lesser established teams got 2 garages, the big boys got 4. Everyone gets 4 garages now. So really, it's much ado about nothing. That brings me to the end of this video. I hope you did enjoy it. Let me know what you thought about the race down in below and any of the talking points that I have discussed. But for now, I've been James Eagles. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Take care.